Either you're investing for a long time, you're working extremely hard, you're doing both, like you're acting in passive, like you're not gonna just have passive income, retire early, not do it for a long time. Like again, statistically, that if there's somebody that's meeting that trifecta, that it's
Yo, B, let's go. You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
welcome back, Rebels, to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. As always, I'm Julian, here with my boy B, and we got a new topic for you guys today, as usual. First, I wanted to, we're approaching the holidays in a couple of days here. So for those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving, we wanted to give you, wish everyone that celebrates and partakes a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the holidays. Usually it's filled with family, so definitely take that time. It's important. All right, we'll dive right into it. The topic for today is going to be passive income. Going to get real passive with it. And it's funny because I think on this topic, this could just be my singular personal view. I feel like it's pretty polarizing. And what I mean by that is I feel like, the people that pursue passive income, it's either, or not to take that back. I feel like with passive income, it's either people are like, hey, I got my job, it's going steady. I'm rooted in my job, and they're good with that. Or you have a camp of people that's like, I'm all in on passive. Like, I want to get as quick as possible. I want my passive income to pretty much account for my, that be the entirety of my income and live passively. So I think it's kind of funny, and we can kind of dissect those two sides and rebel against and kind of see where we land. But I don't know if you get a sense of that polarization, B, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people, and I mean, there's definitely, I know plenty of people that, have a normal job, have some passive stuff, but I feel like for the majority, as with a lot of things, in society, it's can be very polarizing. It's like all in or nothing.
Yeah. It's like, I would imagine the majority, I'm talking about percentage based, majority of the population is not thinking about passive income, thinking about retirement early or retiring early, thinking about FIRE. I don't think they are for the majority. But within the people that think about it, I think the overwhelming consensus is, hey, how can I get to my magic number of passive income per month, per quarter, per year, whatever it is, and how can I quit my job?
Right.
That's the overall consensus I get. I could be totally wrong, but That's the basis that we're going to be talking about in today's conversation.
Phenomenal breakdown. Yeah, I like how you kind of spelled it out a little bit better than I did. And I agree. Which in theory, right, it's good to have a vision to, I guess have that do away with your W-2 job, your normal job. But I think there's some irony in that being that I think your normal 9-to-5 job is the foundation of you setting up your passive lifestyle. What I mean by that is I think you can have longevity with passive income if you maintain that normal working job. Maybe oftentimes people try to get passive too quickly, or just have that idea of, hey, I want my passive income to support rather my lifestyle, and that they don't have enough appreciation for how long that actually might take. So I think I don't know, the first thing for me that comes to mind is kind of the irony of that, hey, within this conversation of pursuing passive income, which I think we can both admit we're supporters of. I'm all for trying to increase your revenue streams or get something that supplements your normal 9-to-5, your day job, whatever. But it is acknowledging your active income as well. You need the active piece to start, and then not only start, but to maintain, I think, the passive. And we can get into that a little bit, but
yeah,
I don't know. Those are my entering thoughts.
Yeah, my whole view changed on this because ever since reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was like, hey, my number one goal is to retire as early as possible. And I was at 22 at that point, and I was running a lot of math on like future projections on if I'm saving this much a month, which I was already doing, and if I continue with market average returns of X percent, and I put in this much a month, like when can I hit this number so I can, kind of match my income? And I always, math showed that I could retire before I was 40. And that was like my goal for the longest time. And as life happens, I'm like, well, first, it is very difficult to get to that level. Even if the math says it, we said it in so many previous podcasts that math says one thing, but reality says something else.
Right.
Right. And then we never account for that in projections, like on investment calculators and whatnot. We never account for the what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of realized like, well, now, I mean, if you listen to this show, like, I am not trying to retire. I say ever,
yeah.
but like for a very long time.
Right.
And I originally got the idea, I had a mindset shift when I started listening to Ryan Pineda's podcast. He runs the Wealthy Way podcast. And he always talks about, how these passive income streams has been fantasized and, just became really popular with all these stock guys coming up on YouTube. A big thing that happened was Bigger Pockets. The immersion, the popularity of Bigger Pockets, selling the dream of, hey, passive rental income, which a lot of people say, oh, rental income is not passive. I think you can make it pretty passive.
Yeah, it can be either or, I think.
Right. But to Ryan Pineda's point, he was like, you buy something really, let me think about it in this market, right? You put 20% down and a lot of the metropolitan areas, including the suburbs, like housing prices has gone up pretty significantly. Yeah. So the traditional 20% down, let's cash flow, a lot of money is not really there for majority of the markets. Yes, like you got to realize real estate is very local. So, some market could, someone in some market be like, oh, like I'm buying $0 down and I'm getting all these cash flow. Okay. Like
it varies.
I'm talking about, averages, but people like drool over getting $200 a month in passive income, but that literally gets wiped away in one repair.
Correct.
Right. So that's not really passive income. You never got to utilize the income
for anything.
You just had to put it back in this property, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but you wouldn't have been able to live off of that, right?
Right.
And then let's say, over the long run with rental rates increasing, your average rent cash flow becomes like, I don't know, $500 in 10 years. Because some are still negative, some might be even, some might be really positive, but the average, let's say, is $500. That means to replace your $50,000 job on W-2, how much is that? What? 10 is 5,000. You need 100, right? To get to pay. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know how, like, it is possible, but you know how very, like,
unlikely
that someone is like, hey, I'll just buy 100 rentals in 10 years and call it quits.
Right.
That is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And what he preaches is, instead of doing that, why don't you develop a skill that makes a lot of money? And if you, for example, if you want to stay in the real estate space, great. Like, why don't you do, a lot of wholesaling and house flipping? That's another it becomes active income, but your reward to your amount of work that you put in could be much better than what you do at work. Because if someone's making $50K, you can make a $50K profit in one deal on a wholesale deal or a flip deal.
Yep.
And once you have that money-making machine based on the skill that you acquired, you can go ahead and make $100K, 200K, 300K by running a business pretty much.
Right.
But from that income, it'll make it so much easier to actually achieve passive income. So I'm like, like that actually makes sense. Like I shouldn't be focusing on passive income right now, which, I still do.
Yeah, right.
But I've also increased my earning potential by a lot.
You have the foundation for it, right? Not everybody. It's situational. Yeah.
So I'll just continue on with some math.
Yeah. Give us the breakdown.
Yeah, so the breakdown of the math that I was running, right? So in everything in this example, I'm going to favor it to the person that's trying to achieve passive income, right? They're going to get the benefit of
passive,
the doubt.
right? Trying to do away with their active income, right?
And I try to make it average as possible.
Okay.
So person listening can literally adjust it to how they see, their personal situation unfold.
All right.
But I was like, okay, so the median household income, so the husband, wife is most likely both working in the scenario, and it was like 80K when I looked it up.
Okay.
I don't know what but I was like, you know what? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. When you earn more, it is easier to achieve passive income. Mm-hmm. So I said household income is 100K, right? So that doesn't mean when you divide 100 by 12, you get 83. You're not getting 8,300 in profit every single month because you got taxes and other expenses you got to pay for, right? Yeah. So you can't really get away from federal taxes from the average person. And for the state taxes, I put this person in Texas because there's no state income tax. So that's good for you, right? Good for the guy or the girl or the family. And I was like, in my previous job, I was paying about $700 in medical insurance for me and my wife.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? Let's bump that down to $400. The benefit, giving him a little leg up
for this family.
And with dental, vision, all the other stuff that comes along with it, I would say, hey, that's $50. So I put it at medical insurance. Everything is $450, which is definitely on the low end.
Generous, yeah.
And I put, okay, this guy, if they're making 100K at, as a household, they probably have a good company that they're working for, and they also have a 401k match. So I put it at 3%, which is generous in a way that, 3% match, that wouldn't be good, but I'm saying 3% that gets taken away from your income, so you have more income to actually invest.
Yes. That's
not tied up in a retirement account. So that's the math I did, and then the take home comes out to be $60,030.83. So $6,000 a month, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So with a $6,000 a month net take home pay, I would assume with rent's going to be, let's say the rent's going to be $2,000. Food, everything's going to be $500, which is low, very low. And you got car payment, you got student loans.
Right.
You want to save away for savings, right? You want to save more for vacations and down payment, and you got maybe a little bit of credit card debt. You got hobbies that you got to take care of, obviously. I said, I would argue a take-home pay of $6,000, if they were to survive on just $5,000 for everything, I would say that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. You can save $1,000 aside from savings into actual investments, right? And with the $1,000, I put that into the investment calculator. So to replace the household income of $100,000.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets juicy.
This is very common in the financial independent, retire early group. But there's a thing called the 4% rule, which is a very common retirement strategy. Basically, you take your investment account value and you multiply that by 0.04, which is 4%. And the amount that you get, you can spend that for your annual spending with a very minimal chance that your account value will ever go to zero.
So it's most live off that 4%, right?
Yes, for the 4%. In a lot of the simulations that the 4% rule came up from, practically you can live forever on 4% rule.
Okay, sounds good.
Very few instances that this fails, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just go 4%. You know, if you want to be on the safe side, you can bump that under 3. I think you would be fine with 5%, but that just increases the chances of you running out of money, which we don't want. So we'll just stick with the common, very traditional 4%. To replace your $100,000 income with the 4% rule, you need $2.5 million.
Easy.
And you can also do that by whatever your annual spend or your income or whatever number you're trying to replace. You multiply that by 25, because multiply by 25 is the same thing. To get it back to the same amount, by dividing or multiplying by 0.04, you get the same number. So 2.5 is the number they're trying to get to. So starting out at $0, right? And after 40 years, so I'm assuming this family is 20 years old, already getting 100K a household.
Yeah.
Very generous,
Yeah.
above average family.
Yes.
And I put the rate of return at 7% because the S&P 500, which is the index that tracks the stock market, top 500 companies, that it traditionally returned 10 point something. So I said, hey, let's put it at 10. I'm guessing in the future, inflation is going to run somewhere from 2 to 4% every single year. So I would say I put it at 3.
Okay.
So 10 subtract 3, the real rate of return will be 7%, right?
Yeah.
So I put starting at $0 after 40 years of compounding at 7%, with putting in $1,000 at the beginning of the month, each single month without interruption, ever. Right? Very generous, I would say. You would have, after 40 years, $2.6 million. You finally achieved your fire number, right? And this is adjusted for inflation already. So I'm saying 2.6 in today's dollars purchasing wise. If you did the actual 10, that's going to be much more, but just to, put it into today's numbers. So in the fire, passive income community, I always see, it's usually someone in the late 20s or early 30s, maybe mid 30s. I always see them, hey, I want to achieve, financial independence, replace my income with my investments in the next 5 years. How can I do this? And I'm just like,
well, you can if you're starting from that. Well, you can in theory, but it's not. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I'm like, well, in 5 years,
how much capital?
So in 5 years, you would probably have a better chance on either starting a business,
right? Yeah,
working about 100 hours a week to get that thing off the ground and very profitable.
Right.
I would marry someone that's very rich.
Right.
I would
rob a bank.
I would be adopted by a very rich parent that's about to die, so I can get their inheritance. That's like the best plan.
Yeah.
Because I also ran on something. I ran the same exact with one variable change. I was like, you're starting at $0, but instead of 40 years of time horizon, let's say these people, hey, I want to get it to 5, which starting at 0 is actually pretty good because I'm assuming net worth of 0, which would mean that there's no
debt,
other big loans that you have.
Right.
Which is also generous because majority of the household has some kind of student loan, some kind of car loan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of them have credit card debt too. So 0 is actually really good, right? Above average for sure. And to get to $2.5 million in 5 years, assuming the stock market average, you would have to invest $35,000 a month. Not $3,500, $35,000.
Which 5,000.
Dude,
who have this?
99% of the population of America, we can't
do that.
That's very, very hard. But you say, okay, I don't have that much, but I'm just this amazing stock market trader.
Sure.
I have well surpassed Warren Buffett in every single, say, okay, I'm starting at $0, and in 5 years, I'm going to get 2.5 by investing $1,000. Still $1,000. What rate of return do I need to get? You would have to get 115% return every single year for the next 5 years. So you would have to double your money for the next 5 years, plus a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
It just, society doesn't work that way.
I don't know anyone that can do it. I've never heard of anyone online that can do it. And I would assume with that kind of rate of return, if there's something out there, it would be very risky. And the chances of you also losing all of that is also high.
Yes.
So those are the scenarios that like I just put into a calculator. And yes, like the ideal situation would be to actually decrease the amount of years from 40 would be to, increase or invest more and get a better return.
Yeah.
I mean, those are pretty much the two components that go into it. So with that, I'm just like, it just kind of reminded me how hard this journey to passive income to replace your income is. And we're not even talking about after you achieve this passive income goal to actually start living in it. Like there's also a lot of risk that you encounter after that.
Right.
But that's just a starting point. That's the numbers.
I gotta give it up for the breakdown. That was
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. I guess I'll start with like the last kind of theory you introduced, which is the risk versus reward. Yeah, I feel like when you're investing that aggressively, and this is very common like knowledge stuff, you're investing that aggressively, it's proportional. Yeah, it's like your reward becomes, I guess, proportional to the risk. Like, sure, you could your ROI could be higher, or whatever, but like it's usually the type of investments that you have are, I don't know, maybe more unstable and more volatile to the point that like, hey, you also have to prepare for the reality that you could lose this in whatever you're investing in. We always say like it's kind of, I think the most guaranteed option is like playing the long slow game, which, we said before, like if you do the S&P 500 and you know what that's something that mirrors the market, kind of what that's going to return. You can go back 80 years and see the average, like you said, around 10%, whatever. But yeah, I think people, like you said, have the idea of, hey, how can I get my passive income to this? But are you accounting for how risky that is? Or are you even, like, you calculated in for inflation? Like, are you even accounting for these little things or the variables? Like you said, like, if you get to where you want to be passively, right, and you're passive, you're just going off that. What happens when an emergency happens and now, like, you might have this finite, you're cash flowing this much and you have a set, it fits my cookie cutter lifestyle. But what happens when life takes you outside of that cookie cutter and then you have these variables, like, and you have to dip into more this month, you know what I mean? There's it all just goes back to the narrative of you are better off having something active to supplement the passive. Really, the passive is supplementing the active, and then you can grow that. Because like even in your example, right, you invest these $1,000 over 40 years, over 20, invest for 40 years, but just $1,000. In theory, you can progress in your normal job, and maybe you can invest a little more as time progresses, right? That was just a standard $1,000. So, yeah, I'm just really piggybacking off everything that you kind of wrapped up for us. And it goes back to the idea of, I mean, really, like, how do you increase your capital, like, for the passive, which I think, unless, one of the examples you give, unless there's some crazy, unorthodox scenario, it's hard to start younger because you have to build up your initial capital to even start investing passively. And then once you do, I mean, you just, like, how are you going to sustain that?
Yeah.
But you articulated great.
This kind of sheds light, at least for me, on people that have actually achieved, financial freedom through passive incomes on their own.
Right.
Like, I'm not talking about winning the lottery. I'm not talking about, getting the inheritance. I'm not talking about getting, I guess, quote unquote, lucky. I'm talking about someone that actually has sacrificed their life and invested their money wisely to get to that point, I'm just like, dude, that's, congrats to them, and that's well deserved. But it's you hear about it online a lot, but first of all, like anything you read online, probably 50% of it is a lie, and the other 50% of it is such a minuscule percentage of the population, and it's like I don't know, I think that there's a name for it, but I'm gonna call it like the internet bias.
Okay.
Where if someone's at least on the fire subreddit on Reddit, someone that's achieved fire is more likely to comment than someone that's barely getting started.
Got you. Yeah.
So
you get
when you see a lot of these people that have fired, I'm sure, like, I guarantee there are people that have fired. Like, and because they have so much time on their hands and they want to share their, successes, maybe to help out, maybe to brag, whatever the reason is, you're going to see them more online. Whereas the people that's like me, I never post anything. But then I'm like, oh, but there's a lot of people that's making, a lot of money and was able to retire early. But for the average person that doesn't realize, how minuscule of numbers that is, that might be almost, delusional. They might have like a delusional sense of reality that they're going to be like, oh, I want to achieve passive income in 5 years, 10 years. And that kind of leads them into the pressure of, running these math that I did. And I was kind of joking with you before the podcast started. It was like, if it's between option B and C, which B was after 5 years, how can I get to my number with a 7% return, which was, the answer was to invest $35K a month. Or you say within a year, you just have to double plus a little bit. I would say, like, just me thinking about it without really digging into it, I would say it would be easier for me, at least for my brain, to say that, to double your investments every year for 5 years might be more realistic than me putting in $35K a month.
Yeah, that's insane.
Which 115% for this particular example, that's insane.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, like, if you got 20% return, you'll be like, oh crap. Like, I'm talking averages right now. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. No, it is. And then, so I don't even know if this is what you're getting at, but you kind of hinted on it. For like the risk versus reward, that's the risk of your actual, like, there's inherent risk in your actual investment. But also, like, what are you risking? I guess risk isn't the word, like, sacrificing to get in these extreme cases, right? Like, or probably on Reddit, like, I'm sure, like, what do these people have to give up to get to this point where they can invest so much passively? Which I feel like is counterintuitive for most people. Again, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you want to invest passively to kind of continue to make money, but also to, like, change the quality of your life, right? Like, financial independence, retire early. Like, you're chasing this quality of life earlier in life. So the concept of, I'm going to work harder than normal or do something outrageous, like I said, work 11 hours a day, I don't know, some ungodly number, to get to this point where I can invest so aggressively that it becomes passive, kind of goes counterintuitive to the narrative of passively investing. Like, the whole point is you're trying to, change, in simple terms, like, make money easier, basically. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's kind of funny, where I feel like in a lot of these, I'm not on Reddit or whatever, but I feel like they had to do something far beyond the norm to set themselves up, where they can be in these top 1% of people that can live passively. And the younger you want to do it, the harder it's going to be, like, to reach that state. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to start these things early for sure, but I think there's a time element to it, and you kind of touched on, like, the time horizon that makes it realistic. Like, it's going to be, if you want to be living passive by your mid-30s, like, hey, I'm not knocking nobody's dreams, but, like, kind of good luck.
Yeah, it's like most of the people, like, majority of the people that actually achieve fire in a meaningful way, I'm not talking about, like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and live on $30,000 a year. Like, I wouldn't even want that lifestyle, even if I was retired.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like, you're going to be,
Right.
you can't do anything. But
Yeah.
for the regular, fire of replacing, your income, or at least, getting to your monthly spend with some luxuries built into that monthly spend. A lot of people that achieve it, they're majority, like, very high income earners.
Exactly.
And it's I think the overwhelming majority that I hear is from tech. Because I'm thinking, like,
Okay.
within a higher earning salary, you would think like doctors, lawyers right away, but then lawyers, you have to finish your bachelor's, and you have to take the LSAT, was it?
Or the yeah.
Or the bar?
Take the LSAT, pass the bar. Yeah, to pass the bar.
Okay. So that, and then you have to go to law school.
Yeah.
So that takes a little bit of time, which is not too much longer. But at least for doctors, you got your bachelor's, you got to study and take for your MCAT, and you got 4 years of medical school,
Right.
like 2 to even 6, 8 years of residency, and then you start making the big bucks, right? So at that point, someone might start their career at like age 30 or like 32 or something.
That's that sacrifice.
And you also have a lot of like medical school debt, right?
Heck yeah.
So I think that when I say it like that, it kind of makes sense that, tech guys, they can usually just get their bachelor's, get into a really good firm, work their way up, and get to maybe even like go to a startup or something like that without too much of the credentials of master's, PhD, whatnot. And I'm looking at my directors at my companies, like there's a couple that only got bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're doing just fine, because once you get into the company, it's mostly the performance that matters over your degrees.
Yeah.
So a lot of the tech bros that's really, got really far in their career very early on.
Yeah.
They're making like $300K at age 30. And they're like, yeah, I'm trying to retire in 5 years. I'm like, all right, like that actually might be possible. Like, actually might. But again, that's less than 1% of the population.
Right. That's the extreme minority for
And
sure.
people read that online. They're like, well, I don't make 300K. Where can I make up that difference? Like, okay, I just need to get a higher rate of return. And then higher rate of return is possible if you have the skills to back it up.
Yeah.
Like in real estate, it's not crazy to hear a 50% return on your money. It's not. Like, a lot of people do it, but that's a skill that you have to acquire yourself.
Right.
And then if you want to do that in the stock market, you want to day trade to, like, you hear the saying, like, it's like 90-something% of the day traders like fail.
Yeah.
But the people that make it, that might be possible to day trade for 5 years and double your money every single year. I could see that happening for.
But what goes into that? Yeah.
Yeah. But you're also accounting for the risk versus reward for the actual investment in itself.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
But you also have the risk versus reward on, I guess, the stability of. Now think about it, there's a lot of risk versus reward. Because investment itself has a risk versus reward that I think everyone is kind of aware of.
Yeah.
Higher return probably takes more risk to get it.
Yep.
Right. And even if you're doing the low, like S&P 500, very passive, dollar cost average, zero, almost close to none risk over a long period of time investing, the risk comes in that you have to do something to make money in your life, and you're going to be sacrificing something else.
That's what I was getting at.
That's the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe risk isn't the best word for people to understand, but it may be, it might be the same definition as like sacrifice. But that's a form of, you have to give up something to achieve something.
We're on the same page. That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
So with that, people that achieve these crazy fire numbers very early on, it's like they made so much money to even get to that number, but they also had to sacrifice a lot.
Right.
And that's another hard thing to do, because you see people making, dude, imagine if 10 people, that was making $50K a year suddenly got up to $300K a year.
Yeah.
I guarantee their savings their savings might go up by a little bit because the lifestyle inflation happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got the flashy cars, they got the flashy house, they got the flashy everything now. So maybe the quality of life may have increased, but not necessarily your investment accounts.
Right.
So that's another hard thing to keep in mind for, because when I was early in my I don't even know what to call it. It's not even financial independence journey, but just accumulating wealth journey. I was always thinking about this, I'm not gonna fall prey to lifestyle inflation. I'm gonna just always stick to this monthly,
Yeah.
And then you get married, and then you get pets, and then now I don't like living here. I'm gonna upgrade to a nicer part of town.
Yeah. It's only human. You can minimize it, but
it's not bad.
Shout out to our minimalism episode.
Yes, sir. So all that to say that retiring early, and in particular replacing your income with passive income is practically almost impossible. So I would think, whether it's stocks or real estate and kind of fantasizing over $200 in dividend income or $200 in cash flow, go get your money so you can invest just much more capital and you have the skill set to go make more money. And on top of that, the cherry on top is you actually enjoy what you do. So you can last for a very long time in your profession.
For sure. And it's funny, like you say, go get that money, and I want to specify, somebody can hear that and be like, yeah, I'm trying to passively, but it's like, no, like you said, but which might take a skill, foster a skill. That's a hard skill, that tangible, something that you can tangibly monetize and build your craft. Because those jobs, when you get an actual job, the main difference between that and passive is the stability of the income. If you're hired at a job, under contract, whatever, on salary, you're going to get this much, and it's protected much more from market volatility, the economy. Whereas if it's passive, the unpredictability of that, we also like real estate. So what you're cash flowing on your property, and obviously there's commercial, there's residential, whatever. But that is far less stable. So we were talking about before how if you have lifestyle change, right? Let's say you're living passively, you have an emergency, something happens to, God forbid, a family member, you got to go take care of them. You just incurred more expenses you didn't account for under this passive structure. Okay, let's say your life isn't changing, but now you have an economy or an economic stimulus that changes something. And now it's oh, shoot, I have a house vacancy, or I can't sell for as much, or whatever. It also affects your whole life because that's what you're living off of. So again, it just solidifies your point. What are you doing actively as well? We're big on passive, definitely pro passive income, but it's the allure of just living off passive income is just that, it's alluring, but it's not, I don't think it's as realistic as people think, or they're just not accounting for what actually goes into getting that lifestyle.
Yeah, it's dangerous, like you said.
Yeah.
Just imagine, in the grand scheme of things, let's say 20 years is not that long. But for your lifetime, 20 years is a pretty long time, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you do everything right. You save, you make money, you invest. 20 years, you're you're pretty high up there. You're you know what? I'm just so tired of corporate BS.
Yeah.
I finally hit my fire number. Passive income is matching what I need to live. I quit. And imagine that guy was 2007.
Exactly. Oh my God.
You did
all
everything right.
And lose that shit in a year.
You quit at 2007.
Oh.
You look like a genius for the next year, right? You're dude, the Uncle Billy that we have in our family, he made so much money. He retired in his early 40s. He's doing so well. In 2008, crash happens. Stock market goes down by let's just say 50% would be crazy, but like, let's say it goes down to like, it goes down by 33%.
Yeah.
Now, because on the 4% rule is percentage based, going down 33%, that's gonna decrease, what you can pull out and what you can survive on. So let's say you had $2.5 million, right? That was your nest egg.
Yeah.
And suddenly you lost 33%. So I'm gonna multiply by what is it? It'll be 0.67, right?
Oh, okay.
For the what's remaining after subtracting 33%.
Okay.
So now your total investment went to 1.675. Now you take next year, the 4% of that. Now you just decreased your annual spend from 100K to 67,000. Yeah. And depending on the lifestyle you chose, like, and you didn't account for this, like, that might destroy your,
Yep.
And the 4% rule works because it's 4%. When the economy goes down and the total, for your 4% number goes down with it, you're like, oh, I still need 100K to live. Let's just say that, right? Yeah. Now you're pulling like 7%. And the math doesn't, like, 7% is not sustainable for you to pull out. So that's just another risk that, you can always say, oh, I can go back into the workforce. But sure, you can.
You can. That's not ideal. It defeats the purpose.
It defeats the entire purpose. Then wouldn't it just been better to just keep working at a slower, even maybe slow the pace down or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then obviously when you retire, like, you don't have health insurance covered by your employer. Yep. So now you got to pay a lot more. And I mean, taxes, if it's long-term capital gains, like, you're not really paying taxes up to the like 90K or something for a household. So you're not going to be worrying too much about taxes. But yeah, I mean, that's with just stocks. With what you said is even more, scarier with the real estate side is like, I mean, even if house value goes down, you're still collecting your rent. But even like if some unfortunate circumstances hit in a very unfortunate sequence, like everything's going really well for 15 years, and on year 17, like 3 people like vacate your property, there's one squatter, and then you have to spend 30K, and like that's reality, right? That's the reality that math doesn't account for.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, with all that said, I'm more in favor of coast fire. Coast fire is the idea that you go up, you get your investments up, right? Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, because you worked hard and you put a lot of money into investments, there's a certain point where if you just let it sit for the next 40 years to when you're 60, like let's say, I mean, the number could change. Let's say you put enough money at age 30. So in 35 years, without adding any more money into investments, 401k, like that compound growth just does the job.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine in retirement. And I'm more, I'm a bigger fan of that idea because you still work.
Right.
And you're not forced to make more investments because you already have that safety, like the baseline already set for your future. So now you're earning more income. You can be a victim to lifestyle inflation and still be okay because you already have your baseline set. Right. And with that, hopefully you enjoy work, or at least it's tolerable, manageable to last you that next 30 years or whatever. And maybe, if you get lucky, you can decrease the age to 60, from 65 to 60 or 60 to 55.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a better approach than someone in their 20s saying, how can I retire in the next 5 years?
Bro, right. Or like if you're pursuing passive income, maybe, you don't stop working when you hit whatever goal. What about now it allows you to do a different job, maybe take a pay cut, but it is something you like, because you said earlier, like, you can just do something you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, just ride that out so you still have active income. And, you have your investments that you maybe have continual allotments, or you just had your initial starting and, it's just compounding over years, kind of like you said in that last example. But yeah, you working it that way. And then for the point of us saying how, hey, we always fall back on real estate, but like, if your passive income is your real estate, there's also some benefits to like diversifying passively, which is a whole nother step. But like you could have multiple passive outlets where, you're bringing money in that way you can kind of offset if one market, if the housing market takes a hit, maybe you have some other stuff. But even that has an active element to it where you may have to up your knowledge in multiple different, areas just so you can invest passively in multiple different areas. So it's still like, sounds good, but there's still some like work that needs to be done, or maybe because it's multiple passive streams and like each one's a little active, maybe you're more active than you'd like. Again, it's really just throwing out other ways to look at it, and also re-solidifying the point that, hey, it's not just like, hey, I want to be passive in this one thing, I want to get by 5 years or even 10 years. I feel like it's just never like that linear. Or if it is linear, it's over a long period of time. Yeah.
Which I can get.
Yeah. So it's what?
Which I can get behind.
Yeah. It's just.
I just want to like.
Part of the game.
I feel like in the United States, like actively working is like looked down as like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like people always fantasize, how can I get out of this crappy job? How can I retire? How can I do less and get more? Which is honestly it's not like that in other places. And I was just watching a video, and then we said we're going to do this topic way before today, but this video just popped up today, and I was just kind of thinking about it. But we don't usually bring in like religion into this podcast, but on a more biblical sense, Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah, Garden of Eden. Yeah,
Garden of Eden. I know, like it was this like magical, perfect place that was so nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Adam, he was just chilling there, and God was like, "Hey, you need to go do work." Right, like you need to go. I don't exactly know what he had to do, but I just know God put Adam to work in terms of doing something, right?
Okay, yeah.
So at a early on in a religious sense, like culturally from the back, like work, it has always been ingrained in our culture and in our DNA, and we talked about it in the fire episode too. But the people. Like type of people that actually achieve fire are probably crazy in the head, right? And I'm not saying crazy in the head in a bad way, but I think that's reality. And I say that because I want to be, I'm not gonna lie, I do aspire to be those crazy people, crazy in the head people. But these people that achieve fire, I feel like most of them actually got to retire in a traditional sense, that there's no like work that they have to do. I feel like they go crazy.
Like, I mean, we talked about it before. Like, if we get to the point where we don't have to work anymore, a lifestyle is supported, but like we still would for sanity's sake, or just like sense of purpose, which also coincides with sanity. But I think we said this in one of or it might have been before the fire episode, but I know we said it before. I can't remember what episode. But and this could be wrong, but I feel like the premium on hard work is diminishing. Like, it's just good old-fashioned hard work is just doesn't seem valued as much. However, I will caveat that with the understanding that society is changing, and we did talk about how and Rebel Against this heavy, how the concept of working smarter, not harder, and there are resources available now that I think it shifted what hard work looks like. It's not necessarily like roll up your sleeves anymore and like back-breaking physical labor. But even with that being said, although I know you can work hard in other ways, still I feel like hard work isn't as valued as much anymore. When I think the people that can achieve financial independence or retire early, like no matter how you slice it, there's some element of that good old fashioned like hard work. Like hey, they just like busted butt for this year, this time frame, and allowed them to kind of get here. Where I feel like people don't want to work as hard, and they want passive income, and they want it quickly. And it's like, dude, you got to do something. Like something, you got to either you're investing for a long time, you're working extremely hard, you're doing both, like you're active and passive. Like you're not gonna just have passive income, retire early, not do it for a long time. Like again, statistically, that if there's somebody that's meeting that trifecta, that it's like an act of God, or they fell into a pot of money. Like literally, it's. I mean, you broke down the numbers. It's in the numbers. Yeah, dude.
So we gotta. So that was, hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Rebelling against that idea of hard work pays off. That was episode 11.
Yeah.
And that was actually it is the best performing episode that we have so far. And yeah, no, I cannot agree more. And it's kind of sad to hear how, like America used to be I would say like the hardest, I put in air quotes, like the hardest working, country.
I don't even know. I think it's
I mean, look at it from like World War II, like during World War II and post World War II, how we became a global power. I mean, we're already global power. We kind of asserted our dominance in the global powers.
Okay.
And then we come back to all these soldiers coming back, flooding the, in the job market. And you could have the traditional hardworking, it could be low-skilled labor, but it's still hardworking for a very long time. Literally, are 2 generations above us, right? Like, they could work in a factory or at a mill for 40 years doing the same thing every single day for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Very hard work, very repetitive. And then they got rewarded for it. It's harder to do that now. But at the same time, it's like, hard work is looked down upon for sure. And I mean, like, we talked about the get rich quick scheme episode.
Oh yeah.
We're like,
trap.
There's just so much out there. They're like, hey, get your money fast with doing no work.
Yeah.
No work.
It's not
advice. I don't agree.
Yeah. No. Super random, but I was literally on the phone with my dad, like, I don't know, sometime this week. And I have this cousin Gary, who I've seen probably like 4 times in my life, but older guy. And my dad was like, he had a job out of high school. Like he was at like some factory. And he, till this day, 2024, I don't know, let's just say I don't know how old he is. He's probably late 50s. Like, he might be late 60s, but anyways, my dad was like, the job he got out of high school is the same. He's not doing the same thing, but he's like under the same. He said the company's changed 3 times since he's been there, but he's like at the same physical location, like doing same company basically since he got out of high school. And I was like, you don't hear about that. That man's been working there for 50 something years.
That's
insane. I was like, oh my God, I don't know, his benefits package or something better be. I was like, oh,
hopefully he's getting a pension or something.
Yeah, dude. I was like, dang, I just wanted to add, like I said, he's one of those like distant family members. Unfortunately, I don't get to talk to him a lot. But I'm like, I have so many questions for him that you don't hear about that. I was like, my brain was just spinning. Like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. But, and another risk, I don't know why what you said reminded me of this, but another thing that I would be scared for people chasing this passive income dream, I want to reiterate, like, I don't think it's bad to chase passive income as like a goal set to, as a direction to move towards, in the whole goal setting direction, like we talked about in the goal setting episode, which I think I still agree with, but at least having a goalpost to move towards, I think it's actually a really good idea, because achieving passive income to survive, you have to have certain qualities that we talked about. Like, you have to increase your income. You have to be frugal with your life. You have to learn about investments. Like, all those things that you have to do to achieve as like financial freedom is overall positive.
Right. Right.
But I would hate to see like a family, on their passive income journey.
Yeah.
And they're just like, after 20 years, they have 800K, let's just say, which would be, by any standard, be really good, right? But that's just not quite how much they need to live on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the argument to what I'm about to say could be, just like, take it easy, work 4 or 5 more, 10 more years, and you'll be just fine, which I agree with that. But I would be so sad of any regret that they encountered because of chasing this passive income journey that they were kind of fed the dream on. Because, we talked about how you're going to have to sacrificing many areas of your life. And then what if they just kind of realize, you know what, like, I don't mind working till when I'm later. Yeah. And because of that, I had to sacrifice so much time away from friends. I had to sacrifice so much time away from family or even your kids, like, and they just kind of realize, like, maybe this isn't for me. Or even if they wanted to, they're like, oh shoot, I didn't account for inflation, and in 20 years I got to 800K, and 800K in 20 years could be like 500K today equivalent.
Yep.
And 500K is not enough to retire.
Yeah, dude. And something I thought about earlier with the whole like lifestyle, right? You let's say you aspire to live passively, or you're living passively, and that might be enough to sustain your life. But again, what about you may not have the flexibility to visit your family as much because it's not in this cookie cutter. It doesn't fall within your budget, or you can't, you just might start missing out on things that are true core memories typically of life. So now you're almost sacrificing life just because you're obsessed with living passively. Again, I would urge someone to maybe like reevaluate. And is that what you really want? My guess is no.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
because if they said you can retire right now, making 50K a year without lifting a finger, I don't want that.
No,
it sounds crazy. It would sound crazy for some people, but I rather earn what I'm earning right now, with all the business like side hustles that going on with the real estate investing and the stock investing I'm doing, and working hard at my job. I'd rather have that, so I can $1,000 expense. I'm like, shoot, I don't want to pay that much, but it's whatever. Like that gives me more freedom and literally time and I guess not time, but like money to enjoy life. All right, because just for context, we're recording this October 24th. Our previous weekend, you visited Phoenix, which is where I live, from Chicago.
Yeah,
but if you're living on a tight budget that you have exact amount that, like, unless you saved up for that, like that would not have happened.
Or pulled from another month to restructure my life just to go see my boy. Yeah.
But then 40 hours a week, people like make it sound so bad, but it's not that bad. Like every single night I have time to work on my projects, spend time with friends, family, and I got the weekends, and I got federal holidays, and I get PTO, I get sick days if I'm sick. Like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And
I get it can be subjective. I mean, I guess, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you got something else going on, but even on trying to take into account for all circumstances, the best to the worst. Yeah, I think it could be a lot worse than the 40 hours, Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. I think we went in on the passive income, but I mean, yeah, just kind of some food for thought as if for those in a passive income journey. And I'll reiterate, this isn't to steer anybody away from, I think we said it enough time, from trying to earn passively. Actually really encourage it, but definitely some things to think about for maybe the hyper aggressive population that wants to, go all in on passive, want to get it quickly. We're not here to force anybody's hands, but definitely some things to think about and pursue it. That true. Yeah, man.
Literally, you can spend less so you can invest more. You can increase your skill set and knowledge set so you can earn percentage-wise, get 20% instead of 10%, without introducing more risk, and that will cut down the time.
Right.
But, yeah, when you start going for the 5 years, 10 years without the fundamentals to back it up, you just, you're going to be let down.
Recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dope. All right. With that, I'm going to close it out. You got anything else, B?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. As always, we appreciate you joining us for some of our conversations, and we'll certainly catch y'all next week.